Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. And today we are here live in Bali. And I have my wonderful trainers, Adrian Cahill and Chris Williamson, with me, two Australians and global citizens who have made it. And thanks to them, we're in Bali. Now, first of all, guys, tell us a little bit, who is the real Adrian and who is the real Chris?
Yeah, that's a great question to start with, Janine. I could have started with something a little bit easier. I'm a bit puzzled by the who's the real Adrian. I'm still figuring that out. Sometimes it's like an eagle. Sometimes it's like a one of those chameleon lizards finding themselves in different situations and blending, and definitely regularly in different situations, but constantly finding ways to add value or to help people get more of what they want in life.
I love that. Chris, what about you?
Well, I think that I could probably more easily summarize that just by saying that I am a perpetual traveler, a citizen of the world. And depending on where I am, what time of day it is, depends on which identity I'm wearing. Here I am today, I'm training with Adrian. Tomorrow, same thing, but next week, an entirely different thing in an entirely different place.
Wow. So I have met both of them right before COVID. We were supposed to, I actually signed up for a Bali 1-week training of neuro-linguistic program in 2019. Now COVID happened and well, we didn't end up meeting in Bali, but they still helped me to learn the techniques about NLP. I increased my self-love, performance, financials, and so on. Now, I heard you say that specific techniques of NLP we can actually only do in person. But I felt like we never had a boundary. And I also know you had to change your concept. So tell us a bit like what you did in 2019 instead of giving up and saying, oh, because of COVID, we can't do it.
Yeah, well, we had training planned, and I actually had a rather nice deposit for this resort for the training. But at the start, we have some specific regulations for fully qualified new code NLP training. And at that time, you weren't allowed to do it online. It had to be face-to-face. And at that time, the creators of NLP, Tony Robbins and all that, they were all just paused, right? But we had a handful of deposits. We had the resort booked, and we had a lot of students ready and eager to go. And then with COVID, they were at home, and there were a lot of people that were on training budgets by their companies suddenly found themselves unemployed and wanted to become a coach. So suddenly we had a lot more people wanting to do the training as students rather than as coaches. So we had a surge of people wanting to do the training, but we had the wall and the barrier of no one had done it. It wasn't supposed to be done. It wasn't supposed to work. Yet because of our work online, we knew it was already working and possible, but we didn't know how.
Okay.
It was made a little bit more tricky because Adrian and I, we had never actually met in person.
What? I didn't know that.
We'd never met in person. We connected on WhatsApp. We almost met in Portugal back in 2019.
In Portugal, two Australians.
Yeah, of course. But I had to fly out for work reasons. I had a last minute call to go and fix a problem. And so I left, I think it was the day or maybe two before you arrived, Adrian. And so we'd never met. We connected through WhatsApp. He saw my number as +61 area code, country code, sorry.
That's right.
And that was it. We connected. So
who are you? I can see this an Australian number.
And so our connection was formed with no more of a commonality than the fact that we were both supposed to attend the same training and that our phone number started with +61.
I'm going to add, though, that the training, right, we had to fly from Australia all the way over to Portugal, not just Europe, the far side of Europe, to go there. And what kind of people fly up to the other side of the world to do training?
Crazy ones?
So when I knew that Chris had flown all the way there to do it, it's like someone who is on the pursuit of excellence. And if someone is on the pursuit of excellence, I want to know them and who they are. And, hey, you've flown halfway around the world to be here. You must be doing something, achieving something, creating something. A lot of people in Australia, they go down the road or they go down to Sydney and they do a very low quality training because it's easy. It's just down the road.
Yeah.
So for someone to travel halfway across the road, halfway across the globe, it means something to me.
Well said. And I mean, the good thing is, as a student, I can say I'm actually so grateful you didn't do you didn't put all the NLP new code topics into 6 days, but you actually gave us like 3, 4, 5, 6 months every week for like 3 hours. Beyond that, you gave us extra time to practice. And to be honest, I had the biggest changes because every week I could focus on a new topic with my clients, with myself. I found it very powerful. And nowadays you have a hybrid model allowing the students here not just to attend the 6-day training, but to continue practicing online for another year, right?
Mm-hmm. Although, I sell this training, come and do 6 days in a row. The absolute best way I've found in the world is to do 1 session a week. So it's you do the session, you get the practice. You do the session, you get to practice. You do this, you do that all year long. And some people drop out because it's a bit busy, and then they come back a month later, right? So that's the best model we found in the world.
But most trainers would not really create that model. They have like 1, 2, 3 day hardcore trainings or for a week.
Because it's easier to sell. It's easier to sell.
Yeah, but not really to make the implementation, right?
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about, you are both not only NLP trainers, but you are investors, you are business practitioners, you're a dad, and so on. How does the new code NLP make a difference in parenting and relationships in your business? How do you apply it? Because NLP for many people is intangible.
All right. I'll start with parenting. So as a parent, I want the best for my children.
Mm-hmm.
I want the best. So do I want to limit myself to the little world around me? No. I want to look at who are some of the best parents, watch, learn, listen. And I don't necessarily copy, but I listen with an open mind. And I read some of the different parenting methodologies. I try to find the best. But really what I found best was working on myself. And as I applied what we teach to myself, collapsing my own stuff, recognizing how much of my own world I was imposing on my children. So my child's there experiencing the world, and I'm trying to impose my worldviews on them. World's dangerous. If we go to a restaurant, I need to walk with you to the toilet. You can't run outside. Don't climb trees, right? And I noticed when my daughter was climbing a high tree, I noticed that my heart beat faster. So my daughter's climbing a tree relaxed, and I start to feel this.
Okay.
So rather than telling her, I go inside. Why am I feeling fear? So I apply the NLP all to myself. That's the number one way. So I go in and I work on my own reactions, my own world. And then sometimes I actually tell my child, well, the oldest child is old enough. I tell her, oh, I was feeling scared. How were you feeling? She's like, I was feeling fine. I'm like, oh, great. Well, I was feeling scared. I'm going to work on my fear. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite things is a little camera, phone camera. I phone my children doing things like climbing really high on a tree, and I film it. And then later on, I'm like, wow, look at that child. Look, they're so brave. That child, oh, incredible. Yeah. And I show it to my child several times so that the memory becomes bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. There are so many ways we can use it to enhance the chances of our children for having a creative, amazing life.
Wow. That's powerful. Thanks for sharing, Adrian. Chris, what about you and your global business practitioners? Is that a word?
Let's go with it anyway. Well, you've heard me say this before, Janine, and Adrian's heard me say this dozens of times, and that is your ability to communicate has a direct correlation with your ability to relate. Mm. The quality of your relationships affects your level of success. Mm. Better communications, better relationships, more success.
Better communication, better relationships, more success.
Absolutely.
Hope you noted that down.
That doesn't apply to parenting or intimate relationships or friendship relationships.
Okay, let's go.
Or does it? Totally does, doesn't it? Are you saying all this stuff that you can apply to parenting, you can just take into a business context?
Absolutely. And if you don't, why?
Oh, and you haven't asked, but are you saying you could possibly take all this into maybe intimacy, maybe finding a partner, or maybe getting a better love life, or finding the one?
Communications, relationships, success. Pick an arena and apply it.
colleagues everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
That's why we get so passionate about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Tell us a bit more about how you apply NLP in business. Can you give us like a tangible example on how you do this when you invest, for example, or when you are in your advisor role in companies and saving them or scaling them?
By listening, fully and wholly listening.
We have already learned it. Everybody knows that. So what's different about that?
Well, everything that you say or don't say, everything that you do while you're saying it conveys a message. And part of what NLP teaches is about listening, about calibrating, about paying attention, increasing your nonverbal communication skills so that you can communicate, reflect, react in a way that's constructive, a way that speaks to the person the way that they like to speak.
Mm-hmm.
As Adrian has heard me say at least twice now, people like people who are like them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can speak to somebody the way that they speak, the way that they see the world, the way that they communicate, the chances of you creating an effective relationship and a successful relationship with that person goes through the roof.
Now, I know that you are coaching and working with some of the most successful people all around the world, not just in Australia. What have you learned? What makes these people extremely successful? And I've just done some Google research, right? And if we check Google, I mean, some of the NLP practitioners out there are, of course, Tony Robbins, actually Oprah Winfrey, she's one of my role models. There's the #1 manifestation coach, Regan Hillier. There is, like, from the Spice Girls, one of the singers, and there's so many others. Like, there's actors, there is basketball players, and so on. Now, what makes these people so successful? The people that you've worked with, that you have met?
I could sum it up with one word: action.
Action. Okay.
People who succeed are the people that do.
Mm.
It's very difficult to succeed if you stand still.
But you don't need NLP in order to take action, do you?
Well, all those people you mentioned, and you mentioned them because they've specified that they've done NLP. But anyone who is in a world-class sports team has experienced NLP, because all the best coaches have NLP skills. Whether they explicitly say, I'm an NLP trainer, or they've done it. Probably every single coaching course in the world has a huge element of NLP in it. They just don't always specify that we're at the NLP element. We just went a lot deeper because we wanted to be, coaching people at the highest levels. Like, one of my guys is working with the Olympic teams, right? Another one went off with Richard Branson. So the people we work with are at the top, and most of them have already experienced NLP. They just don't often know that it's NLP.
Okay, so we had action, but I feel like, okay, I'm already taking action. So what else would we need to do and learn? We also spoke about the circle of excellence to be an excellent business practitioner, or to live that happier, successful life.
Plan your action. So yes, action. I think planning as well. Planning your action, but planning is an action.
Having a target is #1. #2 would be taking action. And #3 would be managing your state as you take action. We all experience setbacks.
Yeah.
Some people experiencing a setback will use that as an excuse to stop.
Yeah. Give up.
To give up.
I haven't succeeded. I'm a failure.
To go back to what was comfortable before, which was exactly where they were.
Yeah.
Being able to manage yourself when you experience this feedback allows you to make progress. Change what you're doing, change the strategy, the techniques, but keep moving towards your goal.
Okay, last question, then we're going to go for lunch break, and then it's swimming time. What was your biggest failure so far?
Well, I use the term feedback rather than failure.
Well, somebody said, Janine, you need to ask people more often in your podcast, what was the biggest failure?
Okay.
Okay, tell me more.
I'll go with the term failure.
Okay, or feedback as you call it.
But I would have to say that the thing that I experienced fairly early on in my career was selecting bad partners to work with. whether that's a supplier or a staff member, a business partner, or anybody else that falls into that business nexus, is not having a more understandable criteria for the type of people that I would like to work with. Trust is an important part, and misplacing trust would be the thing that I would say led to my biggest feedback.
Thank you for sharing.
And feedback happens. Feedback's real. We're getting feedback. I'm getting feedback from my hair now at the wind. Right? It's feedback. Failure is a judgment put on top of it. Yeah, a judgment. It's not real.
Oh, it's
feedback's
in my
real.
mind.
Feedback's real. Now, I would say relationships as well. And it's definitely feedback. I could be in a long-term relationship with the wrong partner. I tried very hard, but I've learned that maybe I picked the wrong partner or maybe I did the wrong trust, but I am responsible. And the feedback I was getting in the relationship meant I had to maybe toughen up or soften up. And after a year or two, I had to soften up more and get some more. And after a couple more years, more and more. And after so many years, my biggest strength, resilience, my biggest strength was actually the obstacle. I didn't have to keep being resilient. I had to recognize that I had chosen the wrong partner and move on. And there was a time when I felt like a failure. That was a judgment. And from time to time, I still felt like a failure. But over the time, I realized that that was feedback.
And I remember you're an ex-military. You like literally served and you went to war, right? And I remember Adrian actually shared with us that he had an emotional intelligence score of not existing. And I would never have thought that, knowing you now for actually 6 years that I've met you in Shanghai. The first ever paid workshop I have given after I quit my job at HP was actually at Adrian's Motivate community in Shanghai. How did you make that shift?
We have workshops with like love and stuff, right? But I have a military background and I had the emotional intelligence of a dead fish. But I learned this stuff. I learned the emotional world, and the emotional world is largely like a system. But typically accountants, engineers, a lot of my clients are CTOs, CFOs. A lot of them just haven't learned or understood the emotional system or a relationship system. And the relationship system with ourselves is very complex, not to mention with 2 people or 3 people or with children. So I went from having very low emotional intelligence to teaching and lecturing these kind of subjects. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. You just got to learn the system.
Nice. Okay, we're going for a lunch break, and part 2 is going to be continued at the end of the training with amazing Chris and Adrian. See you later. Welcome back, guys, and we have Christopher Williamson here with us. Chris, what are some of your main challenges in your work?
I think that one of my main challenges is remembering to care about my health. The nature of the travel that I do, I flew more than 110 flights last year, with enough to go around the world more than 12 times. That's once a month. It's difficult to remember how important sleep is. Sleep is the most important factor, as I see it, in maintaining high quality health and functionality.
It's interesting because I actually asked you that question a couple of days ago. So we have been in Bali now for 7 days nearly, and we're done with the NLP training. And last time you actually told me something completely different. It was more about personalities, and that people actually a lot of people focus on short-term, like big money investment versus long-term relationships. So I'm wondering, like, what made you change your answer now?
A change in perspective. It's very rare that I spend this much time in one place, usually 2, 3, 4 days, maybe. But this is the longest time that I've been able to stay in one place without having a flight in more than a year. And this is the first time that I recognized in quite a long time that by being able to have a regular pattern of sleep, it changes my ability to tackle different challenges.
Wow, I'm so happy to hear this. Although you are the trainer training us, we can also see that you have learned and recognized things yourself throughout the training, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Now tell us, how can people become successful investors like you?
That's a challenging question. It's definitely something which is more of a black box than a simple yes or no question.
Mm-hmm.
There are obviously a lot of things within business that can happen which are outside the control of the investor or the business owner, the startup, the founder. But being able to recognize that there are challenges that you will not anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the experience that most people had operating a business in 2000, 2001 was an almost unpredictable set of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely. It would certainly be down the lower end of my risk register if I was making an assessment of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to recognize that things don't always go according to plan, and making your decisions based on the full set of information rather than just through the very narrow field of view that people will often have. They look at the life that they have lived. They look at products as though they're the only people that may or may not use them.
Mm-hmm.
I've made investments in industries that I had never considered, in products that I would never consume.
Okay.
But I recognize that I'm not the consumer of every product. It is a very big world. And just because I don't need a particular service or a particular good, that doesn't mean that other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, just because I want it doesn't mean that everybody else does.
Mm-hmm. Do you have some advice for some of our listeners here who want to become serial entrepreneurs? How can they get to that goal?
Relationships. That is the beginning, middle, and end of it all. Mm-hmm. Relationships. Identifying the people that you want to connect with, the people that will bring some value into your life, and hopefully that you can bring value to them as well. Mm-hmm. And maintaining quality and deliberate and specific communication, mm-hmm. so that you understand that the quality of your communication skills directly impacts your relationships, which is the only thing that has a material difference on your ability to create success or not. Mm-hmm. Some people are very good at appearing as though they have created success by themselves, but very rarely is that the case.
Mm-hmm. Now, you are surrounded by a lot of very successful business practitioners. What makes them so successful?
Integrity.
Okay.
Integrity is the common thread that weaves those successful people together. Those people that say what they'll do and then do it, mm-hmm. are more likely to become successful and maintain their success. Mm-hmm. I have seen people that have become successful and have behaved in a way that is not integrous. Mm-hmm. And those people, they begin to lose the relationships that they have spent a lifetime creating. Mm-hmm. And with that relationship exodus comes a decline in their success.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
The other thing is that money is not the only indicator of success. Mm-hmm.
That's a good reminder.
It's difficult to feel successful when you don't have people to share that success with. Mm-hmm. Unless you're Scrooge McDuck and like swimming in a vault of gold coins, what's the point?
Exactly.
And that can be a good place to start when asking, what does success look like?
Mm-hmm. Every one of us will have a different definition of success, right?
Correct.
How are you able to get so many new clients compared to, because I know you don't have a lot of social media presence, mm-hmm. but how do you still do it? And especially it was during COVID times that you went out of Australia and you started your especially big journey and your life and your work in a different way.
I would say that the biggest contributing factor to how I expand my network has been because I'm prepared to get in front of people. It's not a situation where I live my life online. If there is the opportunity to go to an exhibition or a trade show or a meeting in person, mm-hmm. If I'm given an invitation to speak at an event, then I will get on a plane and I will fly.
No excuses. You're just gonna do it, right?
Well,
That's how I know you.
I don't have an unlimited amount of time in a day. I still have the same 24 hours. And so I need to prioritize those things that I think are important. But laying out those things that I consider to be important against my limited resources, time being the biggest one, that allows me to decide what things I believe are going to create the greatest value for me over the time period that I have identified.
And what's the best advice that you have ever received by somebody?
Whatever you do the best. When you do the best, you can charge the most.
That's true. Do you have a coach or a mentor yourself?
I have a group of people that support each other. It's not a formal arrangement, but there is a group of people that are comfortable in sharing problems and successes, and those different perspectives can be all that's necessary sometimes to be able to see that your view of black and white is entirely different from the other shades of green and gray, blue and pink, spotty and striped, that will give you the ability to solve your own problem just by having somebody else say, have you thought about this? Or are you doing this for the right reasons?
I remember it's about 3 years ago, after I've started taking your training for a couple of months, and you had this wonderful webinar in my Monday morning motivation community about how to be charismatic.
I did.
Why is charisma so important?
Charisma itself is just a label.
Charisma, sorry.
Well, charisma itself is just a label given to a set of behaviors. It's not a thing that you can put in a wheelbarrow and take around with you. It's just behaviors. And in that webinar, I spoke to your audience about energy, positivity, integrity, and empathy. Those are just behaviors that have the appearance of being charismatic. I think that that's important because all of those behaviors are very important in the maintenance of successful relationships. It's not just about the communication, but when you can behave in those ways, you increase the chances that you'll be able to form and maintain successful relationships.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So where are you flying next now after Bali?
Bangkok this afternoon.
For your restaurant opening?
Restaurant's opened.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the name again? So if you guys are in Bangkok, check out Chris's amazing restaurant, Latin American food, right?
It's called Carmina, Carmina, Carmina.
.com.
CarminaBKK.com.
Okay.
BKK being the airport code for Bangkok and the shorthand for Bangkok, as people in Thailand will often call it.
Yeah.
It's very nice food. I enjoy it. Bangkok and then on to Istanbul, stop in Panama, then over to California, Tokyo, Singapore, and then back to Bangkok around about this time next month.
In how many weeks? Oh, within 1 month.
Yeah.
Wow, not bad. Wish you lots of success. So how can people, when shall people reach out to you? How can they work with you, or for what kind of topics? Because I know you do so many things.
I would say that if you want to create a network with me, please reach out to Janine. Janine is an extraordinary person, a business person of herself, a serial entrepreneur. And part of the reason why I wanted to come along and support you is because I've been able to see your journey over the last 3 years, where you have grown and continue to grow, create new successes for yourself, go in different directions, be flexible, and see where opportunities take you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time. And I know you have to catch a flight very, very soon. We stay in touch. I can't wait to see you again soon. And we're coming up next is Adrian. We are back with part 2, and we have amazing Adrian Cahill here with us live in Bali. Adrian, let's talk about money. What are some typical beliefs that people have around money, and what are your beliefs around money?
Well, my dad always said one of the greatest problems of money is that people don't talk about it enough. While I haven't made tons of money, I've made enough. So I actually enjoy talking about money, because I think probably 98% of the population have bad financial beliefs. For me, money is a way to empower or disempower. But ask me in 2 years' time, I might have something different. At the moment, I believe money is a way we can empower people. When I pay the electricity bill, I can be empowered by it. Could also be disempowered by it. In scarce, when I pay for any services or when I pay for coaching or when I get paid by a client, it's all a matter of seeing it as a way to empower. Yeah, thank you for doing a good job, or disempower. Oh, I don't have enough.
Tell us what you did last night in a restaurant when we all training participants, when we were having dinner together, and this was not officially part of the schedule. So actually, you would imagine that every one of us is supposed to pay by themselves. What did you do? And I think this kind of gives a good example.
I like to give, but giving needs to be careful. You know, if someone's giving you a bad product and you pay, it's like, oh, I paid too much. We feel disempowered. The restaurant last night gave us exceptional service. We took over the place. I asked them about the music and they allowed me to change the music, and I put on our music and we had a really good time. Not just that, I actually went around to the bathroom and I saw that there was one guy working the kitchen. My primary fear was, can these guys make the food for, 15 or so people? But then I noticed a couple more people rocked up. And then towards the end of the meal, I noticed the staff taking a photograph of all of us, foreigners in the restaurant. So I saw these guys were like entrepreneurs. They were taking advantage of the situation. You know what I did? I said, great, come around and take some more photographs. Wanted to help them out. So we helped them out by allowing them to take more photographs. And then when I went and paid the bill, I paid the bill for everyone. It's no big deal. I like to empower everyone. So I just paid the bill, right? And when I paid, I gave them a tip. It's only a small tip, but for them, it was a pretty big tip. And they were like, wow. Just as I went to put in my PIN code, I pressed cancel.
So you were about to give 100,000 of the local currency as a tip, which for us sounds big, right?
Yeah, it's big money for them. I went cancel, and I saw on her face, and I said,
what happened?
sorry, double the tip, 200,000. Really, sir? Really? And they looked at each other like, really? You're going to do that? And their faces started to lit up. And the three chefs all came out, and they were all nearby. And they're like, what's happening? And they're like, he's going to give us 200,000 tip. And I went, yeah. And I gave them some suggestions. I said, you guys did such a good work. We could see you're trying so hard, and you guys work so well as a team. And I gave them it was an extra big tip, right? But it went in, and they took it as empowerment. And for me, it's empowering to be able to empower others.
And that is something that I love about Adrian, because many, many years ago, he did something similar in a different way, in his Adrian way, to also empower me when I started taking NLP and ICF coaching trainings.
Yeah, most ICF coaches, most of them, they're not getting paid, and most of them have to work on their own money bleep. So yeah, when I saw you, Janine, I was like, oh, Janine is stepping up. She's stepping up to the challenge. Then I thought, okay, maybe we can empower you. And opportunity came, we took advantage, and it was wonderful to have you share.
Thank you. That's how we started to work. Now, a lot of people are wondering, like, how do I become a millionaire? So a lot of my friends who've actually achieved it, they were saying, oh, doing the first million is challenging, but the next millions are easier. So now I'd like to ask you, how did you make your first million? Or do you have some advice for our listeners how to become a millionaire or make your first million?
Be a millionaire for what? For what purpose? I think a lot of people can get hung up on the numbers. I don't want or care or consider myself to be a millionaire. I am me. I am me living my life. But because I got my financial beliefs in check a bit earlier, I was able to invest. And to me, being able to make the money is just a matter of being congruent in who you are. A lot of people make millions unethically, and sometimes they make it by kind of disempowering others, maybe upselling or ripping off. That's really disempowering. Yeah? I believe we make our money by empowering and creating value. But really, it's kind of simple. Give value, work on your money beliefs, and invest that money. Invest it. Timing is important. Like, if the stock market is on the edge of tipping over, if it's been going really, really high, and if it's on the tip of blocking over, If we put our money in at the top of a really big market, there's a fair chance it's going to crash. We don't want to invest in crypto at the top of the market. We got to get in early. Timing is such a big factor. A lot of my closest friends that made millions, a lot of them did it by getting out of the market once they had substantial profit. And when everyone else was scared or we're in a recession or a downtime, that's when they were investing and buying more. Timing is critically important. Obviously, our beliefs and updating those beliefs.
So what would be your first step, or this one thing how our listeners now can take action towards working on their money beliefs? And I know also that you mentioned like you do not just practice NLP, but actually you practice new code NLP. Maybe you can quickly explain what new code NLP is compared to normal NLP, and then some techniques that we can start tackling our money beliefs.
Right. You might use the more traditional NLP to do some things around squashing money beliefs or updating. But new code is more about looking at the code behind it, the code. Now, part of the code around, don't make a code around millionaires. That's not important. You want to make your code or your pattern or your process or who your model of successful people, whatever you deem a success. And you don't need to have $1 million to feel success. There are people that have $1 million plus in the bank and they're miserable and have cancer. I know some people that scaled up and made the millions and then 40, 50 years old, husband or wife has cancer. I've seen a lot of it. It's more important that we go in a more holistic fashion. Yeah. It's no good ignoring your kids or working 50, 60 hours a week and not seeing your children because you're making money. I actually found myself around 26, plenty of money. I had a wife. We were on that money track. I thought, well, if I just make $1 million, we're going to be set. But I got so focused on making the money, I screwed up the relationship. Lost 60, 70% of my money, lost all my motivation. And it was after that that I realized that, hang on, it's not just money. There's love, there's relationships, there's health. We don't want to sell all our health. Yeah, we don't want to sell our soul to make the money. It's got to be in a more holistic fashion. I would rather be wealthy than a millionaire. Wealthy in resources, energy, time, passion, love, living a life on purpose. That's far more important.
So you basically mentioned we should rather focus on the definition of success.
The definition of success, definition of money.
And then find out what our beliefs are around success.
Yep.
Right.
And perhaps if you were to take a bigger time frame, you might want to be careful with the friends and the people that are around you. Don't surround yourself with people that keep blowing their money. Don't pursue intimate relationships because the partner is, hot or sexy or in the vicinity of you. Sometimes it's better to be by yourself and working on yourself than being with a partner that doesn't support your growth. Being with partners and friends that support your growth. That's why our training is so successful. Because it's not just what I teach, we get the community, we get the growth.
Yes, we have a lot of transformation. We've had the last 7 days, and actually we were supposed to have, I think, 6 days of training, and Adrien, Chris, and Kevin gave 2 more days on top. So without asking us to pay even more. Why? Because they're constantly they believe in us, they invest their time, their passion, their love in us, want us to practice even more.
People prefer buying shorter. People prefer coming for a shorter training because they're like 5 days, 6 days. Yeah. And some people sell the same stuff and they say, we're going to do this in 4 days. Or some people are like, oh, we can do it in 4 days. We'll go there. But the truth is it takes more time. So when everyone turned up a day early, we're like, yeah.
Especially the practice that takes time. Now, what's your biggest challenge in your life? And I also would like to say thank you for opening up, showing vulnerability, sharing some of your own life stories with us as well. What's your biggest challenge that you currently have?
I guess my Maslow hierarchy of human needs has been completely fulfilled again. And then it's like, okay, well, what's the next level? Yeah. So I've actually really been focused on Bali. I turn on my phone this is the training we're doing in Bali. I've been really focused on this week and not looking beyond. Yeah. So my challenge has just been, it's not really been a challenge at all, actually. It's just been a matter of staying focused. So I've got the goal, the mission is this training and staying focused on that. Now I'm walking out of here. I'm going to my next one, and this training has helped me clarify my next couple of steps. But I've primarily been really focused on here. There were a couple of emotional challenges I had. I found one or two emotions I experienced.
Would you like to share that with us?
All right. So despite doing X years coaching, training, I guess I was coaching and training back in like 2004 or 5 and stuff like that.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but you know what?
20 years.
I never realized until recently that the old Adrian was having a challenge with loneliness. Before that, it was sadness. He worked on sadness, but the more recent one has been loneliness. It's been mind-blowing for me. I recognize that some of the things I do was initiated by an inner sense of loneliness. And a lot of people may experience this, but it's often outside conscious awareness. So it came to my conscious awareness that loneliness was worth exploring. So I looked at loneliness, and I gotta say, had some breakthroughs in my whole body. My whole kind of body went back, and things started to open up, and energy was going, and like there was like a release, and then my somatic intelligence was like, whoa. And if you could imagine people going around with a lot of luggage or baggage, emotional baggage, yeah, the loneliness was in there, but it was out of sight. And now I've just had a kilogram or 2 of baggage is just gone, and all this new energy has opened up.
Wow.
Yeah, but the thing was that challenge was in my unconscious, and it only just started to get into conscious awareness, and then we worked on it here. Boom. Yeah,
that's amazing. So although we are trainers and we give our knowledge, but at the same time, it's also like we're getting something back. We're growing with our students, with the training participants.
This thing has only been hiding for like, I don't know, 38 years in my life. This thing has been hiding, you know. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. What's the best life or business advice you've ever received?
Oh, we are never alone. Now, hey, the best business advice wasn't actually business advice. I worked on a farm as a teenager. Some years later, I went back to the farm as a bit of a business consultant. I studied business after high school, and the farmer called me back and said, hey, you've been at TAFE learning business. And he helped me, or we worked together, to implement some of what I was learning at TAFE on his business. Another 10, 15 years later, he hired me as his coach.
Wow.
Wasn't so much the advice. It was that he believed in me. He worked with me. He gave me the opportunity. Our minds came together. And his belief in me and his opening up, that was it. It wasn't necessarily something someone said. It was the belief. Someone believing in me and choosing to work with me. And it just, I know it changed his life and probably saved his marriage and his family, saved his business. But through that whole process, knowing that he trusted me and, you know, we allowed us to work together, that was it. That was it.
And also what Chris mentioned earlier, it's about the relationships.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships.
But also sometimes the unconscious relationship. So it wasn't what he was saying. It was the unconscious magic that came from the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, going back to new code NLP. So what keeps you going in tough times?
Oh. There's a gentleman here who I coached back in 2012, and he gave me a photo frame of Shanghai, and it's on the wall. And every time I see that, it's a really positive anchor. My environment is full of positive anchors. So I do doubt myself sometimes.
We all do, I guess.
I see all these positive anchors and I'm reminded I'm on the journey. If I'm getting feedback or making mistakes, I know I'm on the journey, right? It's a journey.
So what Adrian was just saying with anchors, it's a good reminder for us, like how can we get into a high performance state? Every one of us can do it by themselves. We all have the low moments, but we can like integrate these anchors through pictures, through smells, through touches. We can implement this in a workspace, in our home, in our car,
clear out the old
in
stuff,
our phone, like
clean out
everywhere.
your car, clean out your home.
Yeah.
But we also do some really deep work with the emotions, and you'll never see this anywhere else in the world.
We've had a lot of crying going on, healing.
There's so much deeper magic. Some of this magic was written down in books back in the 80s and 90s. Some of the magic was totally lost, and I found it. So rather than working with a physical anchor, I've worked with the emotional state. So indecisiveness or empowerment or loneliness or go get it and confidence, we actually have ways of changing the emotional state. And I've learned ways to really empower someone's unconscious to kind of automatically do all the work. So I can go anywhere and I don't need the anchors. My mind goes, be in a high performance state. It kicks in. I don't need an anchor anymore. I've got it worked at the state that my body and mind kind of automatically adjusts to the context we're in.
What's your life purpose? Do you have one?
Heal the world, make it a better place.
Michael Jackson.
For you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. There are actually people dying. There are actually people dying, and people are procrastinating on whether they should buy a ticket to the next event or say I love you to someone, and there are people dying. I've been in the 1 year in the conflict in in war zones, and there are genuinely people dying, and most people are procrastinating. I was in Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan as a backpacker. And I was in Afghanistan, Kuwait, and East Timor as a soldier. Yeah. And I didn't have to do that, but some of my friends got bullet wounds. I remember seeing snipers go out, successful snipers coming out. And I remember seeing these boys coming back after they had the first pop. And the situation there was these boys were really successful until they did their first pop. And the first pop they had to do was into some little kids. They had to shoot kids. The snipers did, and it totally destroyed them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I want to be able to do the intense healing because those boys were doing their mission, right? And then it comes the other side of the house, like when you actually mix with the Afghanis, the Iraqis, the Kurds and Persians. They are the most beautiful people in the world. I love Islam, actually. As much as I love Christianity, I love Islam as well. And when I actually feel really comfortable and at home, especially when I hear prayer music in the morning, or when I meet someone that's Arabic, I speak a little bit, and it's just like, we just gel. I can't wait to go back and spend more time in the Middle East and some faraway countries. Now, if I was to mix with one or two nationalities, I might have a little bit of a belief conflict. There are a couple of beliefs that I do have conflict with, and I won't work with them because I feel it inside. But working back in the Middle East or, haven't been back to China for a while, but seeing the differences and seeing that everyone has a mum and dad. Sometimes they don't know who they are, but everyone wants love. Everyone wants peace. Everyone wants, health. It's just the strategies. A lot of the strategies and emotional states about need adjusting.
Love your life purpose. Can't wait to see how far you're going further. So we're slowly wrapping it up, and I'm wondering, do you have how can you live a happy and a successful life in your point of view?
Take your pick. Take your pick. Do you want a happy life? You want a successful life? Maybe you need to find a middle ground. That's it. Part of me wants to work harder. Part of me wants this. Find a middle ground. But when we find a middle ground, the way we do that isn't consciously. We got to do that unconsciously. It's like the elephant and the rider on top. The rider's the conscious, the unconscious, right? We have to get alignment. Inner alignment makes outer world and anything possible. But if we have misalignment, we have conflict. If we have conflict in ourselves, we see it. We experience it. We have to get that inner alignment. So I do this so much.
Thank you, Adrian. Your training was amazing, and every Wednesday evening, Adrian's still continuing to train us on new code NLP every Wednesday for a whole year. He actually has been doing this nonstop for several years
3
now.
years. We've been training every Wednesday night. Yep.
No excuses.
Sometimes
whether
beginners,
it's COVID or not.
The Wednesdays is masters. It's more advanced, and a lot of advanced coaches struggle with it. Beginners and advanced.
Yeah.
Going on for years.
Thank you so much for being my mentor for many years, for coaching me for many years, for being my trainer and my friend, for being a role model for me. May I ask you to, towards the end now, why have you decided to continue partnering with me or to invest your time in me as a person?
Because I believe in you. Completely believe in you, and I think you've got a unique gift to share with the world. Your particular gift is very, very valuable, and the world needs it. I think you guys know what her gifts are, and there's more gifts underneath that. You have a massive gift to share with the world. People need you.
Thank you, Adrian, for your time, your effort. And now it's time to swim during the break before we continuing to practice new code NLP. Thanks for your time. Follow Adrian on his social media. Why not try out some of his trainings? If you want to get to the next level, like especially if you are like an executive, he is amazing to work with. For all of our China friends in here, Adrian lived in China for many, many years, is still doing a lot of work with China and actually with executives, bigger, smaller companies all around the world, although he's living in Australia. So hit him up, book him. That 1 hour that you invest with him can change your whole life. And I can tell you this because he has helped me to work on some of my money beliefs, where we went suddenly back into my grandma's garden out of nowhere during the coaching session. And
100% hands down, 100% hands down.
Yeah, increased my self-esteem and a lot of other things. He's awesome. Thank you so much, Adrian. All the best, and you guys have a good day. If you like today's session, share it with your friends, subscribe, and like. Thank you.